in the shop. This is the Faerest realm out on the road, a little fairy field trip to the shop. I thought I would bring you all along to my favorite local shop. The shop is called Little of Everything, and inside of this magical jewel box of a shop, I have a room full of my fairy fashions here. So, I thought I would bring you with me. I'm hanging out at the shop today, and I'd love to give you a little tour of the racks. When I'm in the Elfin Workshop in my home studio, I don't have all these pieces with me, so I thought I would come to the store and give you a special tour. So this is the Fairy Fashion Corner. And the beautiful thing is that this lovely shop is right in my hometown, right down the street from where I live. So it's very easy to pop down and add new pieces when they're finished. But as you know, I will be working on listing my pieces so that they can be shipped anywhere in the country. But in the meantime, I've really been focusing on my local fairies with our local shop here. So I would love to give you a tour of some of the pieces that are here. And this will be a little different today because we won't be making a project together, but we will be talking about these pieces and the process that I went through to create them. So I have a whole rack over here of sets. I love to create sets. I just think it's so fun when you love a piece to have a full look in that vibe, right? Like if you have a great top, might as well have a pair of pants that goes along with it. So in that theme, we'll take a look at some sets, some fairy fashion sets. There goes my phone. Sorry, everyone. I forgot to bring my tripod stand today, so I've got my phone propped up, a Crystal holding it up. We are doing a little tour of these sets. So these are some bloomers. This is like a 90s rayon, very soft, beautiful little, it's almost like a tile print, or reminds me of like maybe like wrought iron. And some great patterned pockets. And the bloomers are so fun because I used this knit that had this beautiful pattern. I believe this is called intarsia knit when it's knit like this pattern, but I'm not 100% sure. So these are the pants, and then this is the top. So as you can see, the bloomers were cut off of this, the bottom of the sweater. So, and this sweater was, I thrifted it, and it was just this beige color. And then I ice dyed the sweater, and then of course added a fairy sleeve with a ruffle, and added a ruffle at the waist, and added a tie, added some applique to the front and the back. We have a double ruffle. So I think this is so fun with the pants, right? Oh, so cute. And then this is another really fun set. A top, some bloomers. So I find a lot of these linen pants at the thrift store. They're just an elastic waist with a drawstring, and then they're pretty basic and boring, right? So when you cut off the bottom and add your bloomer, that instantly makes them much more interesting. And then of course I add the patch pockets. And this is something fun to do with patch pockets, is just add a ruffle to the top of the pocket, right? It just adds so much texture. And I like to put the pockets at different heights. So this one's higher, this one's lower, more like a cargo pocket. And I kept the pockets in the back from the original pants. So these pants have lots of pockets. And then I thrifted this beautiful blouse. It has this embroidery, kind of a tone on tone. It's like a beige embroidery on a cream rayon. And then I added the fairy sleeve with the raw edge. And I just added a little tie. I didn't have to do much because this top was already super cute. So I just added the tie. And I like to make these little rosettes with some scrap fabric and just pin them on. I think that's really pretty. Such a fun look for late summer, right? These colors. Because we're in August right now. And then going a little darker, I have another set here. So a beautiful thrifted rayon top. The print is like, there's actually a lot going on in this print when you look closely. So I see a dove, I see a flower, I see a deer, and a different type of flower. Or maybe this is a sun. That could be a sun, that could be a flower. Birds and deers. Very cute. And then I added the side panel and the fairy sleeve. Look at that drama on that sleeve. And I added a little ruffle to the bottom. But this was just a button-down shirt, you know? So all you have to do is really add a sleeve and a ruffle. And then I used some of the extra fabric I cut off for a pocket. A few different pockets here. 2 in the front, 1 in the back, and then the bloomers. So cute. And actually with this set, I made a second version of a top. So they're kind of interchangeable, right? Because it's all working with the same fabrics. So I think it could be fun to have a pair of bloomers, right, that work with multiple different tops. So you could wear it like this, or you could wear these together. Very mix and match. Okay, this is another fun set. I thrifted this as a linen set. It was this color. I didn't change the color. I actually leaned into the browns. And the set came with this cute little vest top. It was a short sleeve, but I don't know, I figured it would look better as a vest. So I cut most of the short sleeve off. I just left a cute little cap sleeve, and I added some mesh ruffle and added a pocket and a ruffle at the bottom. And then for the patch pockets, I added the same mesh there to pull in that detail. I have some flower print, beautiful floral, and then this is more of like an animal print, but a bit abstract. So cute bloomers and a cute little cap sleeve top. And there's a flower applique on the back. I love this set. Okay, this is a really fun set because you find a lot of knits at the thrift store, right? So we can be upcycling the knits as well. This was a pair of kind of like a sweatpants with a matching top. And the way that it was a little bit, I don't know, you could say frumpy maybe, like a matching sweatsuit. But girl, when you add your applique, it can become so fabulous. So look at this lion. This came from a pillowcase that I thrifted. The pillowcase had a print on it of a lion and a tiger. So I cut each face out and just added that to the top. And then I did a side panel in like this gold foil knit. And I did some spirals. I did a big spiral on the back. The knit works really well raw edge. I love the texture. So I did a gold side panel on this side and then a green side panel with a gold spiral on the right side. And then I added a gold spiral on the third eye of the lion. Geez, I think I might keep this set, honestly. I really love it. And then the sweatpants, I added a pocket, I added spirals, and then this is the front of the pant. Look, I added the female lion. And I added cute little ruffles. So it's more of a bloomer and less of a sweatpant. And I did a green ruffle on this side. Hi friends, welcome in. I just got so carried away with my tour, I forgot to stop and reintroduce myself as you're joining. My name is Faith, I'm an upcycler. I'm in the shop right now that carries all my fairy fashion. And so I'm giving you a little tour of what I made, and feel free to ask questions. This is a little set here with a lion on the leg, and the lion has a spiral on her heart. And then the top has the male lion, and he has a spiral on the third eye. Oh, and it's so soft and fun. I cropped the length of the top in kind of like a curved shape. And I think that made it feel more modern. But I do like the base of this fabric because it has this kind of subtle stripe. And you know, I love a stripe. Okay, are you guys ready for another set? Yes, this is the shop. This is actually my friend's shop, and she hosts the fairy fashion here in one of the many rooms of her beautiful shop. So I'm so grateful because the shop is right in my hometown, and I bring all my new pieces here. So this set is really fabulous because it was already really fabulous when I thrifted it. It's definitely from the 90s, and it has all this great embroidery and pleating, and it was already really cool. But I wanted to add a fairy sleeve because it just had a straight sleeve, and I wanted to add a little bit of contrast pattern to the hem, and I cut it in like a pointed shape. And I think that's so flattering because originally the shirt was long and just straight across. So, right, so I cut the shape and then added these ruffles, and I added a little applique. And I love mixing the animal print with these colors. And then the pants that it came with were just really basic, right? Drawstring, but it didn't have any pockets or anything. So I added a bloomer, added the pockets, of course. This was a piece that I cut off the top. So that's nice to add in the satin. Yes, look what a cute outfit this is. I hope you can see okay. Okay, so that's it for the sets for now. There's more, but you know, we have to keep some things a mystery. But I want to show you these bloomers. These are so fun. So this was just a pair of basic rayon pants with an elastic waist and a drawstring. And the whole pant was this print, which I already really loved this print. Kind of like an animal print. But then look how the print came alive when I just patchworked it a little bit. So I added the side panel. I added some fabric to the waistband just for contrast. I added a couple big slouchy pockets. And then of course the bloomer. Oh, I really love these. And these are a nice bigger size too. So I like to, you know, really have a range of sizes and be very size inclusive. I have a shop like yours in my home too. Oh, that's wonderful. I think every town should have a shop like this. Okay, now let's look at some tops. So something I do a lot of is take button-down shirts and turn them into something more interesting, right? Because there's so many button-down shirts out there in the world, in the thrift world or in our closets. So it's something we can really use as a base and then get crafty. So you can take a button-down shirt and turn it into something like this. All right, so let's talk about it. I just switched a sleeve. So I took this sleeve from another shirt and added it onto a different button-down shirt. So you can like plug and play with the different pieces and components, right? So even just changing out a sleeve on a top is gonna have a big impact. This looks like it was a jean shirt and then I ice dyed it, right? And then I added the contrast panel to the top. I added an applique, some paint splatters, of course. Added a patch pocket, and then I actually added this contrast placket. And so I had taken the buttons off, stitched on the contrast panel, and then sewed the buttons back on with a pop of color. You know, so that's a nice little detail. And then for the skirt, this, you know, the ruffle of the top, I have it short in the front and then long in the back with that pointed waistline that I love because I think it's so flattering. And then adding the fairy sleeve, of course. So then you're turning just a basic button down into something that's more like a jacket or something that kind of has, you know, even like a Renaissance look, right? With like the tailcoat. Let me try this one on for you. You know, and it's just as comfortable as wearing, you know, just a denim button down. I cut the collar off too, right? I always like to do that. So that's a really fun idea to do with your button-down shirts. I also did a similar treatment to this top, which this was a men's shirt. So now that I patchworked it, you know, maybe it's a unisex top or it could still be a men's top, but I added a lot to it because it was just this basic plaid, right? And I added a patch. So I took the pocket off, added the patch, and then put the pocket back on for some contrast and added some little patches. And then, of course, I did the side seam, right? So a contrast panel down the side seam. And this fabric is actually really cool because it's got this like pattern in it. Yeah, So I think this could be great for a guy, but also I could see a girl rocking this as just kind of like a cool oversized overshirt, you know? So we have the side panels, but I kept this one pretty basic. I didn't go too crazy because it was already a really good flannel top. What else do I want to show you next? Let's see, what do you guys want to see? I'll show you what I like to do with jackets. So blazers are another thing I find at the thrift store quite a bit. There's a lot of boring basic blazers out there. Here's a way to make them more fabulous. You can do the fairy sleeve on a blazer and add the skirt with the pointed waist in the back. And then suddenly, instead of a boring black blazer, right? This started as just a simple linen blazer, and now it has all this drama. I did a contrast ruffle there on the sleeve. Oh, I think this thing is just like begging to be worn to a tea party, you know, with a hat. Yes. Okay, this was a similar idea of taking a blazer and turning it into something maybe more like Victorian looking. So this was a great little blazer. It was this color with this print, but the styling was just a regular blazer. So I added this lace around the collar. I did some paint splatters. I did some little patches, a little heart. I added a fairy sleeve. So this fabric had a white background and I dyed it to try and get it closer to this. And I actually like that it's a little off. I think that's really cool that this one's more brown, this is more pink. But I think it looks even more aged and cool that way. I wasn't trying to get an exact match. I just didn't like the white background of this print. But look how well it works once it's dyed, because you have the botanical floral print of this that really complements the original blazer. So just know, if you have fabrics that have potential but are not the right color, you can always try to dye them and it changes the whole effect. So I have the pockets here, right? So I cut the waist of the blazer. And look at this applique in the back. You have the roses. And I did the little ruffle on the bottom in like a little linen stripe. I really love this jacket. Okay, here's another blazer. So this one was originally, it's like a beige color, and I thrifted it. And I first ice dyed it. That was the first step. And it was pretty cool as an ice dyed linen blazer, but then I started, changing the shape of blazers, and I really wanted to do it on this one. So I love the ice dye on this jacket. But imagine it was just a standard blazer. And then I cut the sleeve open. I added a fairy sleeve. This is also ice dyed linen. Then I added all this crochet just to the lapel. And then I added a double layer of lace on this. So you have the lace and then the print. And then on the back, this is a doily, right? Like this is just a crochet doily. Like you probably see these at your grandma's house or a thrift store. But what's so fun to add it to the back of a top, especially with like tie-dye or ice dye, because you already get that starburst formation, and then you can add this beautiful hand crochet, you know, it's like a sun or a starburst or like a portal, you know, and it's right on your heart. So that's very cool. I love the colors of this one. It reminds me of, I don't know, like a sunset, right? So pretty. Let's see, what else do I want to show you? Well, we can talk about tops. I do a lot of tops and t-shirts. That's a nice, easy upcycle. So I like to take a t-shirt and cut it into almost like a cape, I could call it. So this was just a regular t-shirt with a short sleeve, and I cut it into, I'm gonna open this up and show you the shape. So if you cut the side of the t-shirt open, right, it turns into this cape. And you can just put your head through, but it's all open on the sides. And then I add a couple strings. And then you can tie it at the side, right? And then that keeps it closed at the waist if you want it more like a shirt, or you could just wear it open. These are really fun to make. So yeah, you're essentially cutting a t-shirt into a half circle and then adding all this ruffle to the edge. And then it becomes like a butterfly top, right? A lot of movement, you know, and they can even be reversible. And they're very free size, open size when they're cut like this because they're just open on the side. So hello, welcome if you're just joining. My name is Faith. I am an upcycler and a stitch witch, and I make all this fun fairy fashion. And right now we're hanging out at my local shop, and I'm giving you a tour of my racks, all the pieces I made. This is another fun one. So this was just a white t-shirt. I did some ice dye and some paint splattering. I did a butterfly applique. I did some roses on the back, and I did a ruffle all around. So this is one of these open size cape tops. This one is more cropped, right? But like such a fun, colorful little top. This one's really fun because so this was a Marilyn Monroe t-shirt. Just a simple gray t-shirt that said Marilyn on the front. And I cut it into a butterfly top. So it's all open on the side, right? And you have your ties. So you can close the waist if you want. And then I added this applique just right onto the t-shirt. So this graphic was already there. And then I added these lace roses that have some sequins. And I added a sequin rose in the back. And then this is all silk scraps that I had from other projects. And added a little pop of color, right? So it's not all black and gray. Just a little, boop, a little animal print, right? A little gold, a little pop of yellow. I think that's really pretty with the gray. Just a little bit, right? Just a dabble, do ya? I think Marilyn would be proud, right? The roses and the shimmer and the silk. Yeah. Okay, this one was really fun. So I found this t-shirt in a free bin and I could see the potential, so I salvaged it. This was just a black t-shirt with a print. The print said Candy Girl with some graphics of cotton candy and lollipops. So I thought this would be so fun to turn into one of these ruffle butterfly capes. With a butterfly in the back. And then I added some iridescent paint. So I went over the graphic and added paint to really bring out the texture of it. And then I added the butterfly, right? So instead of just a flat print, now it's becoming three-dimensional because I'm adding the applique and the paint. And then I added the ruffle all around. And this print has butterflies in it, which I thought was so fun. So nice with like the candy and the colors. And I really like how this fabric has such a bold color in the back, almost like a satin, but then this side is glitter and a different color, sort of a more muted, like rose color. And then I added some ice-dyed, I think that's rayon or cotton, like a t-shirt knit. So this is all open. I don't know if you can see that, but just an open top with the tie in there so you can adjust the fit. Okay, here's a long sleeve piece. So I found this at the thrift store. This was just a velvet top. And I was like, oh, I love this print, the roses and the velvet. But it was just very simple, long sleeve velvet top. And I thought, how amazing to add a fairy sleeve and more of a ruffle, right? So here's what I did. Look at that. At the back. So I found this amazing kind of iridescent, I don't even know what it is, maybe a rayon, but it has all this texture, kind of like a crinkle effect. But look at this gorgeous like emerald green and the way it pulls out the green of the print. And then on the bottom I did a black, I think this was silk with some lace, black and red lace to pull out the red of the roses. And then I added this string so you can tie the top if you want. But I think this is so pretty now because it became more of like a mixed media top instead of just being all the same fabric, the velvet. Now it has silk and lace and this beautiful green and a nice fairy sleeve. Okay, friends, I think that may be a good point to pause for today. I'd love to bring you back to the shop soon again and show you more new pieces. But this is just to give you an idea of some of the other styles I've created, and I'm doing more all the time. Ooh, let me show you this skirt while you're here. This was really fun. So I thrifted this simple black skirt, and when I got it home, I realized it had 2 layers. right? And you'll actually notice a lot of skirts do that. They'll have like a lining and then the fabric that goes over that. So if it has 2 layers, something you could do is cut the top layer shorter and then leave the layer beneath that. And then you could add a ruffle to the top layer. And then I gathered up a portion of that. See how I just folded it up? And I pinned it with a little fabric rosette, right? And I just add some little strips of scraps just to give it a little fringe. And then I just mixed and matched some gold, some silver, whatever metallics I had, whatever scraps I had laying around, I added that to the skirt. So then you have this very layered effect. And so that could be really fun. This was just a super simple black elastic waist skirt. And all I really did was cut this top layer shorter than the underneath layer, added the ruffle, and pinned it up a little bit. And look how dramatic. It went from being a really simple black skirt to being like something really special. At least I think so. I hope you agree. Well, my friends, I'll leave this here for now. And any day now, we'll get back into the Elephant Workshop and finish the denim collection. So check back soon. I'll be going live often, especially this coming week as I wrap up the denim collection. And I hope you join to help me out and hang out. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for being on this store tour, the Faerest Realm Faerie fashion field trip. It was so lovely to meet all you new friends. I hope to see you again here soon. Until next time.